Our first game is Granit versus Godsent, and it's going to be an interesting matchup here. Both teams not in the best run of form recently. Godsent an 11% win ratio overall, but both teams in the last 5 matches have only managed to get 1 win on the board. Granit are coming in with a new mid laner. They are on a 4-game loss streak. This is potentially the best opportunity they have to turn that around, but at this point in the tournament, both teams need the wins, and especially Granit, because they are the closest team to that top 3 in Group A right now. And a win here would give them some lease of life for contesting a playoff spot. A loss here, and you may be staring down the barrel of a locked out very soon of a playoff contention spot. So for Granit, this is pretty much everything on the line as we head into picks and bans. Godsent on blue, Granit on red. Let's see how these picks and bans play out.
And I believe in Granit because Hestero has showed really good showings up in the top lane, holding on to his own. Royal Canon is coming back in after a break. He's a previous Nordic champion back in 2019 summer. Indecision has been looking great, and I think the biggest stuff for Granit right there is Babro. So as long as you manage to facilitate for your ADC, get him out scar-free and allow him to carry whilst the opponent needle is not 1k up 2 minutes into the game, I think he can do it.
Yeah, and I like out of the gate as well, respecting Babro's jinx is immediately Godsent. And as well, removing the set away from Hestero, I think, is also another player who's kind of just had these occasionally not like straight knock out of the park performances on these champions that can sort of dive the back line and cause a lot of disruption. I think Viego also very strong in the hands of Granit too. And I think Karma, Xin Zhao, very standard bans. Interesting to see whether or not they want to move away things like the Rumble or the Ezreal, whether they want to keep them both up, what champions they're going to leave still on the table to first pick for Godsent.
Yeah. Kali is still out there, up for grabs. I would assume that if you want to play against Babro, the Ezreal first pick is not a bad choice right here. But we've got champions such as Diana, who absolutely shredded the NLC. Yes, and there's Diana, there's Ezreal, there's Akali, there's Rumble. Take your pick.
We'll see. I mean, first pick blue side feels like there's a huge wealth of options right now that could kind of play into many different comps as well. But the Rumble being one of those strong junglers with the Karma banned away on red side as well feels like a relatively safe pick here for Godsent, and they will give Aesthetic that Rumble in the jungle. But as Trouble said, Akali is up. Yeah. Plenty of other power picks are left in rotation right now. Granit could just punch back with a 1-2 combo.
Kind of really like the fact that they took the Rumble away, because the other pick that really beats Rumble, one is Xin Zhao and it's banned, the other one is Diana, but you definitely don't want to pair 2 AP assassins together. It will be very easily itemized for, and the spike from Akali, it won't mean too much. So I would like to see possibly something more facilitated in the jungle for Indecision, especially since you have the Akali. Something like maybe a Volibear could be really good here.
I like the Lee. It keeps the flexibility open. Also means you can't pick Lee into Akali, but as Jamada has said previously, there was still Renekton up, and Renekton is still a difficult matchup for both of those, Lee and Akali, realistically.
Yeah, I think Renekton would maybe be the god tier pick lock in here for Godsent, because then you immediately secure one solo lane where you have a winning lane outright, and there you go. I think Godsent get the correct read. And then from this point, we've got all the S tier AD carries up, right? Thresh is also available, but I don't think you necessarily want to lock it in like here per se when you've got those AD carries. I think you're probably better off when you've got a guaranteed winning solo lane to lock in a weak side bot lane for Yusa. Gonna be the Senna, which certainly interesting. I'm gonna hold reservations until I see the rest of the draft, particularly the second solo laner here for Godsent. I think if it's in preparation for an Ezreal from Babro, then I don't mind the Senna here, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see what exactly they want to pair with. And with Senna on the board, Granit now also have to think about some of the fasting pairings to remove away instead of potentially traditional support bans.
I feel like Thresh should be okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Trouble. You're right.
That's what I'm scared of, right? Thresh and Tam Kent could be completely out of the picture here. Especially, not so much the Thresh, but more the Tam Kent that can keep safe the Senna from the likes of Akali, from the likes of Lee Sin, from the likes of maybe a Kai'Sa that could be diving the backline later on together with Leona and everyone else. So I don't necessarily love the Senna pick right here, because I don't really think that it would get banned to go into the next phase, but I feel like they're preparing for like the back and forth, playing from distance, and then having Renekton playing the front line, which I don't necessarily mind too much. But when there's champions with all in potential and the Tamkins gets banned out, it kind of gets tricky for Senna to play the game.
See the Tristana band away. It's something that we saw in combination with the Thresh from Granit yesterday. There wasn't like the most optimal combo together. We still saw a good performance from Baybro. Gonna see a Wukong ban. I think, you know, Wukong lines really nice with Rumble. Like the Wukong ultimate combos with Rumble is super, super good. So we're not entirely surprised to see the Wukong taken off the board. I wonder if Godsent just target another AD carry here. As you said, like if they have the center, it's maybe okay to think about, oh, well, they're gonna ban the Ezreal anyway.
Yeah, I think when you've got the opportunity to just do it, you might as well. I think it does still leave open something like the Varus. Granit, they're kind of like, they know what matchups they're picking into. They know that they Rumble's in the jungle, so they understand what the jungle matchup can be, and they know that Senna's in the bottom lane, so they understand the AD carry matchup already. Plenty of options. All of the hovers that they've gone through so far, honestly, are okay. I think Ashe should probably be the weakest one, because then there's a lot of cleanse value there between Leona and Ashe. So yeah, I prefer the Kai'Sa lock-in. You know, you've got the dive forward already from the Akali, the Lee Sin, the Leona. Just stack it on top. And that hover's pretty interesting. I actually don't mind the Galio into what Granit are running if they were to do it into the bottom lane matchup. Cho'Gath also offers a lot of options in terms of sort of peel in the mid game, because I think silence against some of the diving champions can be a very oppressive ability, but I would prefer the Galio. You can take the Akali out of the shroud in the mid game. The ultimate buys so much space too, but they opted for the Cho'Gath, so let's see how it's actually going to turn out.
Yeah, I kept on thinking of the Trundle as well, but it wouldn't get as much value right here going for the Trundle, because there's not a big tanky member other than the Leona, unless Granit choose to put the Lee Sin on a solo lane and go for something like a Volibear, something like the Zac, something like a Sejuani, something that does have value for that. Okay. So it is going to be a Cho'Gath in the bot lane.
Yeah. So Senacho, really, really oppressive, just in the sense of once you sort of hit that level 2-3 mark onwards, there's so much sustain between the Senna and the Cho'Gath. It gets pretty hard to push them out of lane. So I look over to Granit, I say, if you want to try and, you know, force something through the bottom lane, you've got to do it super duper early. And at that level 1, try and force level 2 advantage and see if we can go from there. Gwen has made it all the way through the picks.
Oh my gosh.
Completely forgot about it.
So yeah, that's going to be locked in most likely for Indecision. I think he'll take that in the jungle. And yeah, I mean, Gwen definitely changes the scope of how this game could potentially play out. A lot of powerful skirmishing. Obviously needs the, you know, the sort of item and a half to truly be a super scary force. But we'll have to see. It's not been moved from the mid lane. I wonder if they're actually going to run it mid. Okay, no, I think they're still trading it. I would expect this to be in the Indecision's hands in the jungle, yeah.
Again, though, this falls into the same category for me with the Diana. If you want to pick Diana, if you want to pick Gwen, both AP assassins, you already have the Akali. The wit's end here is going to have huge value onto the Lucian in the mid lane, or whether you're going to go for a Hex Drinker up top for the Renekton. There's like so many easy itemization paths you can go, especially when you have 2 AP assassins, until the Kai'Sa comes online, until Lee Sin comes into the fights, right? So I'm not sure I'm very happy with the profile of damage they're putting out, but I do, in general, like the composition that Granit is running. It's an all-in. We want to play in your face. We want to stop you before the Senna scales, before the Cho'Gath scales. And I feel like, if I'm not wrong, Godsent have gone for the ultimate forever scaling bot lane in the likes of Senna and Cho'Gath.
Yeah, and they've also got like a nasty teamfight combo. Like if they can actually combo their stuff together, like it's pretty disgusting. Obviously, that just means that I think Granit have to take the proactive stance here. They have to kind of like battle them before it gets to the point where you've got these ridiculous late game teamfights you probably just don't win. But regardless, we have our old school duo back in the house. Orcs and Hiprain are ready to dive into this game, so we'll hand it over to them.
You're damn right, we're back in the house. Hello and welcome to the caster desk as we're getting ready to go into our first game of the second day here at the NLC of week 5, if we're going to be completely particular. Orcs, I'm seeing a pretty scary Granit team comp here. Now, we have seen that Godsent have some pretty good scaling, but I see Akali, I see Gwen, I see Pain, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of broken champions managed to get through there, and we've sort of seen what Akali can do, what Gwen can do. There's obviously a lot of strength in these champions, and I feel like one of the things Godsent is they got solid scaling options, but they don't actually have that great an engage. You know, I feel like a lot of these champions, they love follow-up on engage, you know? Like, obviously, you can just throw the Rumble ult down. Renekton can find a flank, Vene can hit, you know, a Cho'Gath Q, but typically I'd like to see a bit more, like, straight up engage to sort of augment that, and then their team fight could be really solid. My concern is Granit have this monster dive, They've got these really strong high mobility champions, and I could see them taking the edge in these skirmishes. And that's really where I think Granit should look to flourish. Play the skirmishes with your broken champions, dive onto anyone who's out of position, and then if Godsent do fall behind, sure, they scale well, but the problem is they're going to struggle to start a fight unless you give them the opportunity. So you can just play the map wide, you can just sort of play the choke out vision, you have a lot of options.
It just feels like when you've got the Leona, you have that snapping gauge, which Godsent are lacking. You know, that solar flare lands, you can go for the fight, you have the follow-up, you've got enough dashes on that team. There's a whole lot of dashes on the side of Granit. But like Excadrill was saying, is I do think we do need to see Granit play this proactively early, because if they do sit back on their laurels, sure, you still have things like the Kaiser and the Akali, and you know, as we do move later into the game, they do get stronger. But realistically, when you're playing into the center, when you're playing into the Cho'Gath, it can get harder and harder as you move later into the game.
Yeah, the burden of execution becomes higher later in the game. Like, you're still going to have strong carries, but if you get caught out by a Cho'Gath silence later on, you'll just get absolutely massacred as one of these high mobility champs, which is why I really like the Cho'Gath here. And an interesting tidbit is Zvene, the support for Godsent, actually used to be a top laner before he switched to support. So, you know, you don't really often get to say this, but obviously has quite a bit of experience playing Cho'Gath in the top lane. We'll see if that sort of lends itself. I think in this lane, I see a bit of action level 1.
Yeah, it's a little bit of poke in here. It's a 610 Royal Cannon. It's going to have a fight. Obviously, the Lucian wins that fight.
Glad I passed that over to you. I don't know why I did. He's not going to die. And I'm still passing it over. Like, wow, let's take a look at this level 1 interaction. Top gaming, but yeah. And then the thing with the bot lane, as Jamadostov highlighted on, one of the reasons Tom's Senna is so strong is because they just out-sustain every bot lane. Tom has a lot of innate sustain with his great health. Senna has a ton of healing and grasp. So it's very hard to trade, because if you don't kill one, then they'll just heal up. And that's kind of similar with Cho'Gath. When he's CSing, he gets free health and mana. So for Granit's bot lane, if they're taking trades, they're not going to be doing well. They want to be finding more all-ins. And one of the things with having a Cho'Gath instead of a Tom Kench, the setup is better. You can see those ruptures landing. But obviously, you don't have as much safety. You don't have the Devour to keep your AD carries safe. So I would like to see Granit potentially find a window to be aggressive, and that might be reliant on Indecision.
Well, Indecision's been spotted out on his clear, although they probably had a rough idea of where he was going to be. Svenic finishing up his camp just around the same time, but maybe looking for something a little bit aggressive here. He's got the pressure from his bot lane, so they can rotate over to help him, and his mid, so the invade's going to go down, and Indecision has to be very careful now.
And he just has to back away. The W gives resist, but not too useful. And you can see the team are collapsing, and in this situation, Aesthetic is very free to do this because he has priority bot lane, as expected, coming out from a center Cho'Gath. But then also, 610 and Lucian has priority, so a good window to invade. And this all kind of feeds off that early ward, because yes, you can assume where the enemy jungler is going to be, but they had absolute confirmation of Indecision's pathing, and Aesthetic makes a good choice to punish. And now he'll secure this scuttle on the bot side, and he can just move up to the top side of the map. He can take that top side scuttle, and then his whole top side jungle is still up with his blue buff in the 2 camps. So Aesthetic is having a great time right now.
I mean, it's funny how we were saying at the beginning of this game, it was really on Granit to be proactive early. But Godsent are the one with all of the lane priority, and that means they're actually kind of freed up to be the proactive team, to be aggressive. And, you know, it hasn't really accrued in too much other than the blue buff denial, double crowd for Aesthetic. But these things do ramp up. They do get more and more out of control. You can see a lead is starting to build up as Cannon's going in, looking for 610. 610 able to almost turn it back around. As Indecision just going to help clear out this wave and let Royal Cannon go in for the reset.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of all Indecision can do here. So as long as 610 doesn't die, Indecision's got nothing else other than stealing a bit of farm from Royal Cannon and helping get that reset. In the meantime, Aesthetic actually went towards the top side and they tried to dive on Hestero. You can see Hestero bitten his flash, Kubu bitten his ignite, so they didn't manage to kill him, but they did force him away. And now, again, Aesthetic still has these camps up. He's still got more clearing, and only now do we see the Krog spawning for Indecision. So a lot of wasted time ultimately on the map. Although, I'm gonna be honest, I think if Aesthetic had gone straight to clear his blue side, it would have been a lot more efficient. But he is still really far ahead in the jungle matchup.
Yeah, he really is. You can see the gold lead between him and Indecision on your screens. It's 300 at 5 minutes. Pretty nice. Maybe now to steal away a couple of camps, get that double crab. Hasn't been to reset yet either, so he has a whole bunch more gold in Indecision, who Did go to base and buy himself the double daggers just to kind of stack up his Q a bit quicker.
And the thing is, you know, what happened was Indecision took away some farm from the mid. Well, didn't necessarily take the farm, but soaked some XP from mid. And all that's going to do is hit Royal Canin because the matchup between Akali and Lucian changes drastically at level 6. Getting access to the ult means if Lucian oversteps, you actually have kill pressure. You don't really have that before that point. And it means 610 has to play a lot more respectful. So by soaking that XP, you're essentially putting Royal Canin in a rougher time for longer. You can see now 610 already 6, Royal Canin behind. And because of that, still going to maintain priority in the lane. And you can see that Yusa and Aesthetic are taking this time to repeat invade. And watch, on the other side, Indecision, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing to take because Aesthetic cleared it out. So really effective counter jungling in this situation. And this Gwen is quickly falling behind in the matchup.
Yeah, it's getting problematic because they could even go for a little bit more for now. Thinking about going in onto a gank onto Granit's bot side. If Indecision shows here, I think the rest of his blue side's just going to be cleared. Indecision needs to be careful or make this gank work.
I think it's gone anyway because I don't think they're scared of Indecision because they have the priority in lanes. They know that they'd have the assistance sooner. Aesthetic is really chill here. And showing up top lane, I have to give credit to Kubu. He is flashless on this Renekton. I had the presence of mind. He knew the only thing Indecision could do right then was to kill him. It was a very desperate gank, and despite the wave pushing in towards Hesera, Kubu played very respectful and backed away and didn't give that window. Now, Indecision is trying again. If this gank doesn't work, he is so doomed, by the way.
He was able to pick the crab up, so he's been doing something, not just waiting about. But here comes his Zero, looks for the kick, gets himself the Q in as well. Kubi, Dominus popped, dashes away with a slice. There's no follow-up. Didn't go down. Didn't work out for them at all.
So it does put the lane in a little bit of a tricky spot for Kubu because it is pushing towards Hesero. So it does have some impact. But again, Indecision isn't really getting too much value from this. And Aesthetics continue to push that jungle matchup ahead.
Roll cannon. The culling here takes a lot of damage from 610. I think he was a little bit too overeager to follow that Shuriken flip. And this is now just by more pressure. It's not just about what it does for the lane state. It's what it does for Aesthetic, because he can now move in. Indecision's not level 6 yet. Hasn't got that needlework available. And luckily for him, Aesthetic not going to seal away his Krug. So Indecision should be able to pick up these nice and happily and should be ticking over to level 6 at the end of the next camp, I'd like to say. Yeah, oh, yeah, actually get it this camp. He'll get it this camp. That's fine.
Yeah, so honestly, you know, down in farm pretty significantly. But in terms of XP, still doing okay. Like, you've had a lot of jungle camps stolen, but taking away that, well, taking some XP. Oh, no.
Pops the ulti, pops the shroud for the moment, gets the needlework off, flashes away from Aesthetic, and the burn is not quite enough to finish him up as 610 comes over the wall. But Royal Cannon now coming in on the flank, has popped the ultimate. Is he going to chase? Goes for the Shuriken flip, misses it. Royal Cannon, too many skill shots missed, too much loss there as his Zero's been ignited, and Kubu will find a solo kill for first blood in the top lane.
The advantage of having that ignite in those 1v1s shuts down a bit of the healing for the Lee Sin and just has that extra damage to win out. So well played there from Kubu. We kind of saw a little bit of how this matchup goes between the Lucian and the Akali. 610 did overstep, and you saw Royal Canin actually have a window to punish, but unfortunately didn't connect the Shuriken flip, so didn't land the kill. But I've got to give credit to Indecision. Soaking the experience from mid really has made this matchup not as bad as it could have been, because he's still even in experience, and that's the important thing. A little bit of gold in favor of Aesthetic isn't too much of a problem, but if you're down in levels, that's where it becomes really problematic. And the fact he's kept it relatively even despite being zoned off so many camps means that this Gwen is still going to remain relevant later in the game.
Well, as we hit the 10-minute mark, we're closing in on it anyway. 9 minutes at the moment. We can see where the items are kind of going. Royal Cannon obviously building a Seekers versus a Lucian in lane. Pretty much the expected build there. The whip has now been finished up for his Zero, so even though he did go down, now that he's got that whip, can basically one-shot the waves and just kind of play weak side. Get the E, get the whip off, and you're pretty happy holding it from there.
Something to note is, what I talked about a little bit earlier in this bot lane 2v2, is the fact that in terms of trading, Houston's Vene really happy. Might be a bit more here.
That's a lot of burst actually coming out from his Zero. A lot more than I expected. But yeah, that's going to be a Shiro top side.
But I was saying before how the Leona Kai'Sa lane really wants the all-ins, whereas Eustace and Svene on this Senna Cho'Gath are happy just to trade. And I think part of the impact of Indecision being so far behind is we haven't seen any real attention bot lane. And in these 2v2s, if you're not going all in, Leona isn't really doing anything. Senna out trades the Kai'Sa from a distance, and then you have Svene spamming out ruptures. And so the end result is we're seeing an actual CS gap. Despite the fact Svene is a melee champion, he's up in farm over Baybro, and they managed to chunk down this tower, so the Herald is enough to take it down. So that, yes, Indecision's jungle matchup has gone okay altogether, but the impact of not being able to assist his lanes is actually kind of hitting hard, because we ended up in a situation where mid lane didn't have priority, bot lane didn't have priority, top lane initially was losing priority, although Lee Sin's been doing fine, but Granit just not having the start they wanted, and already 3,500 gold down.
I mean, actually, just when we had a toggle of the gold, we saw that Baybro and Yusa are exactly the same in the gold department. There is a lead right now for Svene over Baybro, so overall, yeah, I mean, great stuff there for Granit. We can see kind of where that's being reflected as well in the items as we toggle back. Because, yeah, most of that Everfrost is almost there for the side of Svene. He's closing in on having that finished up. Yusa, I actually can't see what he's got because we've gone back to gold for some reason. But for the moment, Hezero is about to get cooked. Equalizer is down on him, and they're able to dodge away. Gets the kick onto a couple of members. He's got Indecision coming in, but there's no way you're going to escape the dive.
Yeah, I like the move. They have pressure in the bot lane. They have the tempo advantage. You can see Baybro farming up that wave. I think he might have it frozen, and that allows Godsent to be proactive. And the setup is so good. The point and click stun from Kubu, and then Svene has the follow up. And as was said by the analyst, the CC lockdown of this Cho'Gath, the rupture knockup, and then the silence is very effective against these champions like the Lee Sin, like the Akali. And honestly, Jake, just before you were mentioning how Yusa and Baybro are on the same gold, if you're a fasting Senna and you have the same amount of gold as the enemy AD carry who's farming, it is so doomed for the enemy team.
That dive kind of cut me off, but that was kind of where I was alluding to. Yeah. It's like, the person who gets less gold has got the same gold as the person who gets gold? That's problematic.
Yes, and you've got as much gold.
He's 2 levels down. That's like the one thing that Baybro has over Yusa right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was from Yusa roaming a lot to assist with the static, so there is definitely that advantage, but I think this bot lane for Godsent has worked really well so far. And the fact that there wasn't too much outside pressure has definitely allowed them to be comfortable now. 610 does have the Gale Force, so there is a lot more kill pressure there if you do dash in. And obviously...
I think Hezero, you might be getting feasted. He's trying to make the jump away. Is able to flash away to safety. It's Fennec now being chased down. Equalizer lands onto a couple of members, and Kubi's on the flank. Indecision has to throw the needlework out, and he's trying to find himself a kill as Royal Cannon looks for 610. He has to pop the Gale Force to get away. Indecision's trying to get a bit of additional damage off, as here comes the Void Seeker from Baybro, who slides in, and Baybro will secure the kill. Almost losing their jungler, but a great little pick there for Granit, and a much-needed pick as well.
Yeah, a bit of a mistake from Aesthetic there. A lot of this game, he's been very smart around playing around his lanes, have had priority, moving with them, knowing when he can be aggressive. At this point of time, Houston's Svene on the top side. You have no right to start playing aggressive on the other side of the map to push in, and he did get punished, and then Kubu, unfortunately, is the one who actually went down. Now, Granit fishing for something mid, but obviously, at this point, the Lucian, very safe, able to sort of maintain a distance. I'm saying that.
Oh, good. Warthog into the Shuriken flip. He delivers him into the waiting hands of Royal Cannon, who will find the kill, but not before. No, he won't. 610. What an outplay. 2 for 0 in favor of Godsent.
My life. The ultimate, the Dawning Shadow from Yusa, the shield, just enough to keep him alive. And then it was actually a bit of a misplay from Royal Cannon. Needed that final Q to even just trade 1-for-1. I mean, we'll get to watch the replay. So this is a really nice setup, really nice kick from Hezero. 610 potentially could have flashed to avoid it, but they go in and then watch the health. Shield comes in, that blocks the damage from the Q, and then just the dash coming out from 610 through Royal Cannon was enough so that it wasn't a 1-for-1 trade. Because at that point, the tower's damage is stacking up. Royal Cannon knows he's dead, but is hoping to at least finish the Lucian off. But the fact that the Lucian survives really heads up from Yusa to use that ultimate, and also some solid play from 610, holding the Niv and dashing in that situation instead of dashing away.
Really, really nice stuff there from 610. A really good performance so far. 1-0-1 on the Lucian. Got the Gale Force. The Divine Thunder has now been finished up for Yusa as well. As you can see on your screens right now, today's matches that are coming up. goddamn. XL versus Fnatic. I am so excited for that one, Orcs. It's been a long time coming. We haven't seen these two play each other in the regular season for 3 splits now.
Been a long time. Now we do see Granit fishing potentially for an engage here. They do have the tools too.
Solar Flare lands onto a couple of members. In goes Royal Cannon. Indecision comes down as well. Equalizer lands onto absolutely everybody. And the health bars on Granit are just melting. His Hero jumps away to safety, but 610 slides in to secure the double for his jungler. 4 members of Granit fall.
And it's just a massive gold gap combined with a slightly whiffed engage there. We saw Wixo throw it on the Solar Flare, didn't actually connect with anyone. Zenith Blades in, didn't actually connect onto, I believe the target they wanted was Yusa initially. And because Godsent are able to survive, because they have this massive gold lead, and honestly, this pretty stacked front line, Granit just not going to win out in that one. And we do get the replay, so you can see Solar Flare doesn't quite connect to Yusa. Zenith Blade, but because of the flash and the shroud, Yusa survives a lot longer than he should otherwise. They do eventually take him down with a nice plank from Hesero, but ultimately, because it took so long to kill your primary target, the rest of Godsent was able to clean up. And now we're looking at an 8,000 gold lead for Godsent at only 16 minutes into the game.
It's big. It's really, really big. I'm concerned here for Granit. You know, we talked about at the beginning of the game how, you know, the emphasis is on them having the early and proactive play. And ultimately, they didn't get a good early game off. They fell behind, and the team that also have really good scaling tools are starting to really pull ahead. I mean, they are really far ahead. Look at the gold on Zvene versus Baberaw. Sure, there's a slight lead for Baberaw over Yusa, but we talked about this already. This is the farming center. This is not good for the side of Granit right now.
No, not at all. And I think it shows, you know, if you're lacking priority in your lanes and there's a jungler who can clear faster than you, like the Rumble, you're in a really tough position. If Static is able to capitalize, which he did, you can be put really far behind and you're not able to bail your laners out from difficult positions. If we saw, you know, a scenario where Indecision was able to come bot lane, you have the strong engagement of the owner, you have the potential kill, that maybe the game would have been different, but got to credit Godsent for shutting that down from minute 1. I think the proactivity of the jungling and denying that is a big reason why they're so far ahead. And now it kind of becomes a little bit desperate for Granit because they need Godsent to make a mistake and they need someone to overstep so they can find a good engage. Because right now, if they fight a clean 5v5, they will just lose.
Well, here they come. They're looking for that 5v5. It's Fnatic will stopwatch through the Zenith, through the Solar Flare. In comes Royal Cannon. Indecision will be the first victim of the fight as Royal Cannon able to find himself a quick one on return. Finding another one, a double kill for Royal Cannon, but he's locked down. This is Godsent taking 3 and only losing 2 as Baberaw gonna eat the CC. He's locked down and Yusa will continue the chase. Baberaw jumps away to safety, but the double knock-off on the Rupture is big from Zvene. And in goes Kubu. Baberaw ignited, burning down, and it's the 8 for Godsent.
I mean, initially that fight looked okay for Granit. They actually managed to trade, I mean, a bit unfavorably, but they're getting shutdowns. Then the follow-up comes in. Yusa connects with his W, gets that root down, and it's just a clean ace. And I think we're seeing the gold lead and also the advantage that Godsent has in their team comp. If you're not able to kill the backline, you're pretty doomed. And great Zonya's coming out here from Aesthetic, or I believe it was a stopwatch at the time. And then he throws the Equalizer down. And yes, they do manage to chase him down, but they're just taking so much damage. You can see Hesero demolished. And 610, maybe a little bit over-aggressive, but now at this point, these 3 are so strong together. And realistically, I think Baberaw maybe should have just backed up a bit sooner, but a nice Rupture from Zene will secure the full ace. And it's just clean sailing right now for Godsent. They have to make such a massive mistake to throw this 10k gold lead. And really, Granit ideally want to be finding picks. You want to find isolated members. If it's the full 5-man strong of Godsent, even if you kill someone, you're probably going to lose more members in return and then interest.
Yeah, that's the problem is, you know, when your team comp's only way to come back is to find picks. It feels like it's just going to be so hard because Godsent not giving them the opportunity. 610 now has got a couple of members hanging about him, but also he's pretty strong. I don't deny. I reckon he could probably 1v1 Royal Cannon pretty convincingly here. The Royal Cannon is 2 kills now. Got the Proto finished up.
This is the crazy thing about Akali is that should be the case. But actually, it kind of depends. If Royal Canin lands the Shuriken flip, it just does so much damage. I think he could actually win that 1v1. It very much comes down with these two high mobility champions to who outplays who. So I think that's the 1v1 where I'm like, you know, I could see Royal Canin taking it. And he did also pick up 2 kills, I believe, in the last fight. So
yeah,
for a decent amount of gold. He's actually about even in items with 610. So he is the big carry threat, and this should be a kill.
Yusa hit by the Shuriken flip. Royal Canin not going to pull the trigger. Doesn't want to jump into the jaws as Vene.
Yep. Might be a risky one. Maybe if Wixo was there to assist, it could have been that kill. But now we see the Baron started up by Godsent. Granit looking to approach this one, but the health dropping pretty quickly already.
Yeah, it's going very quickly. They have got Royal Canin coming the long way around. A pincer maneuver from Granit needs to be executed perfectly. Look for the solar flare. Everybody's group. Rupture only lands onto one. Solar flare onto Zenith. They hit the Zenith blade. Here comes the equalizer. The turnaround is on. Royal Canin launches into the backline and into the shroud he goes. Can he jump away? No, he can't. 610 is able to take him down as Yusa jumps in forward with the flash, gets the root, gets the knockup, and Aesthetic will find the second kill. Godsent make it look easy.
Yeah, I love the decision to kite back, to move towards Royal Canin. And then again, Granit, not super clean with the engage. They're really reliant on Wixu for this, and they weren't able to connect. And Godsent just going to continue under this Baron. They don't have the Feast from Sveni anymore, but Smite available. Nothing really to contest this one. And with Baron in hand, 11k ahead. Granit going to take this dragon, but it just doesn't matter. This game likely will be over long before Soul becomes a thing.
Well, we have a look at the fight again. Like you said, it's just really good moving. They just moved back onto Royal Canin and blew him up.
Yeah, and you can see Wixo wasn't able to connect with the solar flare. And then when there was a dive in from Royal Canin, they all moved back towards him. Granit were trying to approach and offer assistance, but couldn't get there in time. They lose their Akali, their biggest threat, and then they just have to back away and accept the fight is lost. And now, Baron in hand, 11.5k gold lead. Granit, it feels pretty over at this point. It's not only going to take good play from Granit, you need to be flawless on these engages, but Godsent also have to mess up. If Godsent don't make a big mistake, they just automatically win this game. That's how far ahead they are.
Yeah, it'd have to be a monumental throw. As Wixo is thrown into the air by the rupture from Zene, but they're not actually going to look for anything as Yusa going to get Shuriken flipped onto. Royal Canin's looking for the assassination. Yusa gets healed up. In they go. They try to find the execution. They're able to get it. That might be what they needed to try and turn this around. Wixo has to flash away. And now Kubu's got the flank of the rest of the team, but they're looking to turn it onto the Crocodile. The equalizer comes down. Babel's untouched at the moment. Big shielding, big healing coming in. Godsent, this is the execution they need as they find a double kill onto Aesthetic. 3 members of Granit fall. And Godsent probably going to crack the bed here.
And that kind of just leads to what I said. That was a mistake from Godsent. Absolutely. Yusa out of position, gets engaged on and gets picked off. But it wasn't big enough for a mistake. They still win the following fight, even with Yusa down. Even though Granit find a window, it's just not enough. The gold lead is so big, and they don't have the damage to deal with the front line of Godsent. So it will take some dividend. Actually, that's a lot of damage.
He has to be careful here, but he is able to survive for now. And they're just going to reset.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. And I think one of the things that we also saw in the team fight is how effective Svene was specifically against Royal Canin. The silence really valuable at shutting down the Akali, because obviously all that mobility you have in spades, very limited when you are silenced now. But in spot lane, a little bit over-aggressive here, honestly, but I think feeling confident.
Yeah, they're pretty strong.
And you see the rest of the team moving up. And again, like I said, a mistake isn't enough. It has to be like a massive mistake from Godsent, as we kind of saw in that last fight. And some vision trying to be established from Granit. I think they may be trying to look for a TP flank, as they have both of those available. But I don't think you do it on this tier 2 tower. I think you give this up and you look to go for the next tower. There is that ward just next to the wolves. Maybe you go for that, because I feel like at this point the game is basically done. You just got to coin flip a fight and hope for the best.
There's the rupture onto Wixo. Find him with a quick knock-up. Godsent looking to take out this inhibitor. The equalizer just a zone as Royal Canin slows in. He gets silenced as he gets locked down. All he can do is dash backwards, but Zene will chase after him while Kubu running amok on the backline, able to handle 4 and even able to find himself the kill. Royal Canin goes golden, but Zene gonna find a nom, gonna find the kill. The rupture not going to be enough to land onto Zero. Zene going golden. They're coming in for the turnaround. They get a big heal off. Now Babro, it's on him to turn this. Unable to do so. And Granit, with every time they find these little picks, these little moments, it does feel like they buy themselves a minute or two more of game time.
The thing is, you still see Godsent getting what they wanted. Godsent wanted the inhibitor. Yes, they lost a member, but they also got several kills and an inhibitor, which is what they set up for. It's not, you know, super clean choking Granit out, but Granit are losing again and again and again in these fights. And credit to Svene on this Cho'Gath, honestly. Royal Canin, you see him dashing, you see him do a bunch of damage. You're like, okay, this is Akali, this is go time. And then instantly silenced in the shroud, just standing there waiting until eventually you have to dash out again. And it's a really heads-up play, actually, really heads-up play, but also a really heads-up pick. This Cho'Gath doing so much. And I actually feel like it probably has done more than a Tom Kench would have otherwise. Because Tom Kench, don't get me wrong, is strong in lane in terms of keeping you safe from like Leona engages. But in these team fights, the Cho'Gath is silence is offering so much value.
It's doing a lot of damage. It's got the execute as well. It's doing its work, and Yusa, you know, he's quite happy. 1, 2, and 19 on the center. Got the Divine Sunder and the Black Cleaver finished up as his 2 items, and Gabriel kind of really wanting to get that 3rd item before he really feels like he's in his stride.
Don't think you're really going to get to your 3rd item at this point.
I
think you just have to engage. If you
oh,
hit this down, you lose.
Oh, he's picked up the 3rd item.
Oh, okay.
And it's now or never. If they can't save this inhibitor, it's complete. I mean, it's pretty over, but, you know, I'm being optimistic, Hawks.
Yeah, you can be optimistic, but need a little bit more than that. They are engaging.
So the flare pro is about knock up and the culling. Royal Cannon just locked inside as he has to flip back to safety. The equalizer, the railgun's thrown down, and Babro on that backline, unable to even get close as Aesthetic finds himself a double kill. Looking for his Zero, who is going to be cooked down. It's a triple kill for the Rumble, as now he's going for the quadra kill. Royal Cannon has to be careful as he comes in with the Shuriken flip. Aesthetic and Royal Cannon go golden as they find additional damage. The quadra kill as Babro finds the shutdown to deny the Penta. It doesn't matter though. 27 minutes on the clock, and Godsent put on a masterclass of a game.
Absolutely well-deserved win in this one. And I've got to give credit to the early game. Aesthetic really on point with playing around his priority lanes and shutting down indecision. I think in hindsight, the draft kind of had some holes in it for Granit, but the punishing from Godsent is really what opened those up. And then when it came to those late game stages, they were so far ahead in gold, and the comp worked so well. Svene in particular shutting down the Akali. I feel like the only thing that would have lost them that game was probably Yusa DCing again, but fortunately his internet provider did a solid for him on that one, and he managed to hold through.
We don't talk about that one. That was quite an experience. Yeah, great game. There we go. Anyway, we're going to throw to a break, and when we're back, we'll have our analyst to talk a little bit more about that one, so we'll see you in a moment.